Jehoshaphat was one of the people who looked up to God in extremely critical circumstances in the Bible. Brethren, it is interesting to know that he demonstrated 5 common experiences that are vitally instructive for us today. Number 1, the security and safety of his life and his people were totally unpredictable. It was obvious that Jehoshaphat was in real problem, and the entire Judah was also in real problem. Humanly speaking, Jehoshaphat was totally edged by his enemies, and there was no way he could have survived. Number 2, his situation was urgent with a greater tendency for panic and confusion. Jehoshaphat was face to face with death, and something must be done urgently to avert the imminent doom. Number 3, the intimidation of Jehoshaphat's enemies was strong, lethal, and real, and must never be taken for granted at all. His enemies had numbers, his enemies had status, his enemies had power, his enemies had advantage. By every human standard, Jehoshaphat appears to be up against enemies that are stronger and more formidable than him, and he was fighting a battle he cannot possibly win. Number 4, Jehoshaphat's decision to look up to God was naturally risky, was unreasonable, naturally, and a reflection of his readiness to accept whatever may be the will of God. Jehoshaphat was ready to go with God, even if it means losing his life. It was indeed a courageous action of faith that God honored. Jehoshaphat actually jumped, or literally jumped, from a dangerous cliff and restfully trusting God throughout the fall, expecting God to catch him before he hits the ground by what he did. Jehoshaphat chose to put all his eggs in the basket of God. He willingly refused to have any alternative to God in the face of a highly tempting and seemingly hopeless situation. However, number 5, the good news is this: it is gratifying to observe that God never disappointed him. His absolute dependence on God eventually paid off. God kept for him and the people of Judah at the nick of time. God proved himself faithful, reliable, and dependable. God honored Jehoshaphat's faith and trust in him. God glorified himself in these delicate situations. According to 2 Chronicles chapter 20, you can read from verse 1 to 30 to get an entire grasp of the whole story. Jehoshaphat therefore remains a worthy and specific example of absolute trust and dependence in God. And according to 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 12, here is declaration, and I quote, "O our God, wilt thou not judge them? For we have no might against this great company that cometh against us. Neither know we what to do, but our eyes are upon thee." Brethren, this period in the life of Jehoshaphat and the people of Judah was not the period of ordination ceremony. It was not the time of a solemn service. It was not the time to promulgate new laws or new decrees. It was the time of exploitation and oppression from the enemy. It was indeed the time to receive vivid harassment from the opposition. 3 mighty countries had decided to besiege Judah and lead them to captivity. After much harassment, Jehoshaphat did not resort to formulating military tactics and strategies of oppression. He rested on the Lord. So also the people of Judah trusted the Lord. In 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 4, 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 4, the Bible says, "And Judah gathered themselves together to ask help of the Lord." Can you see where they included the involvement of the power of God through their faith. They gathered together to ask help of the Lord. Even out of all the cities of Judah, they came to seek the Lord. These are actions that are critical. These are critical actions and steps of faith that they chose to take in the face of this intimidation and harassment from their opposition. This is an indication of complete trust in God. They sought the Lord, and the Lord gave them the best strategy they will employ in the fight. Though God's strategy seems foolish to men, but they obeyed God because their eyes were upon God. Brethren, if you still know what to do in the face of misfortune and stress, in your own personal wisdom, in your own personal smartness, instead of looking steadfastly on God, miracle will be distant from you. Many times you will be overwhelmed, and most times defeat will stare you in the face. But Jehoshaphat said, "Neither know we what to do, but our eyes are upon thee." All other things you resolve to do will only complicate your problem. Stop that now and embark on absolute trust and dependence on God. With that, I can guarantee you, you will see a miracle.